Hey, good day, folks. Welcome to Andrew's Life. I hope everyone's doing great today. Well, I'm pretty sure that if you've been watching YouTube or if you've been tuning in to any media sources over the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years, give or take, there's been a huge trend going on of a lot of people leaving the city life and moving out in the country or moving to a small town. And I would say for some people, it might be more so of a trend. But I would say for a lot of people, more so than what any of us may realize, it's not a trend. It's the fact that there's been a lot of people that they preferred to stay living in the city, but due to the high cost of living in the city, they've been priced out of their city and forced to have to move further out into a smaller city, a smaller town, or in their rural community. Now, obviously, I live in a rural community myself, and I grew up in a what you would call I grew up what you would consider to be a smaller city. I grew up in Elyria, Ohio, which is west of Cleveland. So obviously, I see nothing wrong with living in a smaller city or a small town or rural community. I don't consider myself to be a big city person by any means. However, I think it's worth me having a conversation with you guys on the reasons why I think. And again, this video is not based off of any hard data and statistics. The majority of this video is just my personal opinion, and my opinion is based on observation. So I honestly think that the reason why many of us are being fed this city bad, small town good, the reason why we're being fed that type of energy, I believe, is all by design. I believe a lot. I believe it. I believe it's propaganda. And again, I see nothing wrong with living in a smaller town or in a rural community. And I do realize that there's a lot of people that like that lifestyle and they prefer that lifestyle over living in a larger city. But there's also a lot of people that would prefer the city over a smaller city, over a small town or rural community. In fact, there's a lot of people that city living would actually prove to be more practical than any of those other setups that are out here. Now, a lot of people are probably thinking, well, Andrew, I decided on my own to leave the city because the city where I was living, the crime was high. And whenever a crime happened, it took law enforcement forever to come out and investigate the crime. And it seems like in many of your cities anymore, crime is getting worse, and there always appear to be a shortage of law enforcement officials to effectively address the crime that's going on in the city. And while all that is true, I personally believe that all of that is by design. Because you see what's going on is you got more and more cities throughout the United States that are being gentrified. Even here in the deep south, you got a lot of your cities that are starting to undergo gentrification. Some are further along the process than others. Now, here in Alabama, where I live, I mean, just the other day I was in Montgomery, Alabama, and I posted that video a couple of days ago about Montgomery, Alabama, of how, and basically on that video, I was pointing out some of the early signs of a city undergoing gentrification. Like if you go to Birmingham, Alabama, and you go to their downtown area, their downtown has completely been redone. Which again, is the early stages of a city undergoing gentrification. And I'm pretty sure when I go to Mobile, I'll see more signs of early gentrification. Like, in a nutshell, the way that you can tell that a city is starting to undergo gentrification is you might see a bunch of newer houses put up in an older neighborhood. Like that neighborhood, the average house might go for, let's say, $50,000. They put up the newer houses and now they're going for a couple $100,000 or more. And in a nutshell, that's one of the many signs that you can tell that a city is starting to undergo gentrification. I mean, typically they'll start with poor neighborhoods and then they'll slowly work themselves into working class neighborhoods. That's how gentrification goes. And of course, they'll hit the down. In fact, a lot of times the downtown area of the city is one of the first parts of the city that they hit, and then from downtown, they'll go into certain sectors of poor neighborhoods, and then eventually they'll work themselves into some of your middle class neighborhoods, and then they go from there. But in all reality, most cities are growing in population. Even in cities that are losing population, such as Montgomery, Alabama, are showing early signs of gentrification. And I personally believe that this hype of city bad, small town good has been orchestrated by many of the same people who are, I don't know how to word it, but I believe it's been orchestrated by many of the same people like your who are coming into many neighborhoods that are in the city and they're buying up houses for pennies on the dollar. Like they're buying up houses in a lot of your poor neighborhoods, especially for pennies on the dollar. Because I mean, a lot of your large, a lot of your mid-sized and larger uh, institutional real estate investors, whether you want to realize it or not, are in cahoots with your local politicians. They're in cahoots with their local politicians. Because, see, whenever your favorite politician runs for re-election or they run for election, many of these mid-sized and larger real estate investing companies and firms, they fund these politician campaigns. And whoever wins the election, these companies, in layman's terms, these companies will basically throw a crap load of money at these politicians and they will bark orders at these politicians. Hey man, do this, do that, do this, do that. And they'll throw a crap load of money at these politicians. And in a nutshell, that's basically how it works. So many of your city officials, they have no, you know, now obviously if they wanted to genuinely do the right thing, if they genuinely cared about the people, then that would be their incentive to make their city a better place for average everyday people like myself to reside. But the truth of the matter is many of your city officials, they have little to no interest to do that for normal people like me and you. Because what many cities are trying to do is they're trying to fill as many of their neighborhoods up as possible with upper working class and with upper working class people and above. Because when they do that, it raises up the value of the property, which means the city can therefore charge more money on property taxes, which means more revenue for the city. as where if they continue to have neighborhoods for people like me and you, I mean, granted, they can still make their money off of us, and they do, just not quite as much. So I say all this to say, like, when you look at the way that many law enforcement agencies are ran in the city, they're ran the way they're ran by design. Many of them are ran like shit by design. The crime that's in many of your cities, you're thinking, okay, well, how come nothing ever gets done about the crime that's in the cities? Again, that is by design. Because cause believe me, if they really wanted to put a dent in the crime that goes on in many of your cities, they could, they would, but they don't because right now in many cities it doesn't pay for them to do so. Because unfortunately, your city officials could care less about doing what's right by the people. They care more about their best friend, who is a major real estate investor. They want to make sure that their buddies can come through and they can purchase that house for $10,000. And then 5 years later, that house for $10,000 is now worth $150,000. 5 years later, a neighborhood that used to be affordable for the average person who may have worked the factory job down the street, that neighborhood is no longer affordable to those people. Now, in order to live in that neighborhood, you better have yourself some type of a degree in. You better have some type of degree in nursing or IT or something that pays a higher level income. You better be like a doctor or a lawyer in some cases anymore. You know, your little check that you made when your little check that you make working the factory job is no longer going to cut. And again, all that is by design. Like when you think about it. And another group of people that gentrification will, I guess, benefit are people that are wealthy. Because, see, what's going on is, I don't know how to explain it to you people, but I'm going to try to be as clear and precise as possible. But let me just go ahead and cut to the chase here. You see, people that are wealthy, one thing that they recognize is their time. I mean, they recognize that time is money. And with that being said, a lot of these wealthy people, they probably work high-paying jobs that are located in the city core. Many of them probably own very profitable businesses, businesses that are very lucrative, that in many cases are also in the city core. So rather than these people living somewhere a half hour away in the suburbs or an hour or 45 minutes away in a bedroom community, they rather stay in the city. See, wealthy people, the CEOs, the big shots, the big wigs, they rather stay in the city. That way they're that much closer to their money. Like when it comes to going to work or attending to their business. They don't have to do a bunch of driving. And even on days they're off of work and they want to go grab a bite to eat, they want to go grab something to drink. Maybe they might want to go to the park. Again, they're not going to have to do a bunch of driving. In some cases, they can walk or ride their bike to work. Or they can utilize public transportation. And for those that choose to drive to work for whatever reason, if their vehicle breaks down or something happens to their vehicle, guess what? They don't have to worry about missing too much work. Because again, depending on where their job is at, either A, they can walk, B, they can ride a bike, or C, they can utilize public transportation. As for if you're living in the suburbs, or if you're living somewhere in some small town or rural community, most of us are not going to have that option. Most of us, if our car breaks down, so sad, too bad, we're going to have to miss that day of work. Which, if you miss too many days of work, not only is your money going to be messed up, but you're going to probably lose your job because your employer's not going to keep you around. Because at that point, they're going to look at you as not being a reliable employee. So now your money's all messed up as a result. Like, and when you think about it, when you look at the fact that the price of a newer car has went up by an average of $10,000, and according to Google, the price of a used car, they say that the price of a used car has increased by 4%, which I don't believe for even a second. I personally think that the price of a used car has increased by more. If we're going to use percentages, I would say the price of a used car has increased by at least 30%. That's my opinion, though. Because, like, for an example, the type of vehicle that I used to be able to buy for $2,500, now that same vehicle is going to run me at least $5,000. So for those that live in the city, for those that live in the city, 9 times out of 10 their job is in the city. And even if you choose to drive to work and you live in the city, rather than having to drive 45 minutes to an hour each way to work, I would say at tops a person who lives in the city will probably only have to drive 20 minutes each way to work. So for those that live in the city, think about it. You save money on gas, you save money on wear and tear on your car, and then when you factor in the cost of buying a car, whether it be new or used, you save money on that. Because like if you live in a city and most everything that you need is right there in town, work, entertainment, basically everything that you need for the most part is right there in town, your vehicle will last a lot longer. Like if you're driving, let's say 45 minutes to an hour, which is about a 3-hour round trip every day to and from your job, 3-hour round trip, give or take. If you buy, let's say you buy a newer vehicle, if that vehicle lasts you for 10 years, you'll be lucky, especially how they make vehicles today. But if you buy a newer vehicle and you live in town and you're only having to drive a third of that time, that vehicle will last you way longer. Like rather than the vehicle lasting you for, let's say, 10 years or less, that vehicle will probably last you for 20 years or more. And just think of the amount of money you'll save on transportation in general when you live in a city. I'm not saying give up your life out in the country. I'm not saying give up your life in the small rural community or in a small town. I'm not saying none of that. I'm not saying none of that. I'm just simply pointing out what I call propaganda when it comes to this whole move of getting people to leave the city and telling people how bad it is to live in the city and encouraging people to move further out. And I'm also trying to explain to you guys that a lot of the bad things that go on in the city is by design. I mean, what I mean is, it is by design that your city officials don't solve the issues that go on in the city, such as crime. All that is by design. Because what I believe they're trying to do is they're trying to get as many normies like me and you out of the city and move further out. And they're trying to get as many upper working class people or above in the city. Because, like I said earlier, with people with high, if they have more people that are higher income that live in the city, it will allow the city to generate more revenue. Because, like I said, they can raise up their, property values go up, which means property taxes increase. And with a higher income crowd of people, there's certain businesses that could be built, and some of the money that those businesses generate, that will also uh, some of that money will also be contributed to the city tax base. So for those of you that live in the city, if you like living in the city, if you can afford to live in the city, stay right where you're at. Don't sell your home and move out further because everybody else is doing it, because your best friend did it, because your coworker that you're cool as hell with did it. If you like living in the city, stay in the city, because on everything that's real, there is a lot of benefits of living in the city. Like I say, you live in the city, you save a crap load of money on transportation. And again, people that are wealthy understand that time is money. So time that me and you might spend commuting to and from our jobs and fighting traffic, that's time that a wealthier person could be spending actually making money. Rather than spending money on gas and wear and tear on the car, that's time that you could be spending making money. Like, the time, like when you add up all the extra time you spend driving to and from your job, you can take that time and maybe you can work DoorDash, you can work Uber, and make a little extra money on the side. Or maybe you can work some other type of side hustle in that time frame. Or you can take that time and maybe exercise like I need to do. Or you can work on some other type of idea that could be profitable to you. Like you can build yourself a small business or something of that sort. Rather than fighting traffic all the time. And so yeah, I really do think that's the real reason why there's a lot of. I really do think that this whole idea of leaving a city bad, and moving to a small town good idea is being pushed hard. And I noticed that at first it was only being pushed on social media platforms like YouTube. And at first I liked it. I thought watching that type of content was refreshing. And to be honest, even to this day, I still enjoy watching that type of content. I still enjoy listening to people's stories of why it is that they chose to leave their city and they chose to move out in the country or whatever the case. But I just couldn't help but to. And then it got to the point where now, when you cut on mainstream television, you got shows that basically cater to people that chose to leave the city and they chose to live out in the country. You got reality shows that are like that. You got other kind of shows on mainstream television that are like that. Because, like at work, whenever I go into rooms of some of the residents at the medical facility that I work at, they like to watch that type of stuff. So I just can't help but to assume that the reason why that whole idea is being pushed is because they're trying to get as many normal people like me and you out of the city, and they're trying to get as many wealthier people in our place in the city. That way, people like me and you, we're going to be the ones that are going to be spending all of our time fighting traffic. We're going to be the ones that are going to be spending a bunch of our hard work and money on gas. We're going to be the ones that are tearing up our vehicles, having to make more repairs to our vehicles, having to do more maintenance to our vehicles. We're going to be the ones that are going to ultimately have to purchase vehicles more frequently. While these wealthy people who are living in the city, they ain't got to do all that. All they got to do is get up and make a crap load of money. They don't have to worry about the driving. They don't have to worry about buying new vehicles at every other drop of the hat like many of us might have to because we're driving further to work every day. They don't have to. See, your wealthier people, they ain't got to worry about all that. Which is one of the main reasons why your wealthier people are wealthy and many of us are not wealthy. I mean, that's saying the richer, the richer gets rich, the rich gets richer, and the poor gets poor. Well, you see, this is the reason why that happens. This is one of the big reasons why that happens. You see, people that are wealthy, they set themselves up in a position to where they spend as little money as possible, but at the same time, they're in a position to where they can make as much money as possible. Like, for many businesses, if you live in a city or you live very close to the city, you'll generally make more money in the city than you will anywhere else. Hopefully I'm making sense to you guys. So yeah. So next time, for those of you that live in the city, provided that you're not living somewhere super sketchy and dangerous, the next time, for those of you that live in the city, whenever the next time you think about selling your house and moving out in the country, think about this video. And think about all the wealthy people that are coming to the city for reasons that I just explained on this video. And here's one more thing. Among some of these people that are moving to the city, you know, such as your young professionals, such as your wealthier people, some of these people, they love the country. They love the country. They just understand that for them, in order for them to maximize their income potential, in order for them to maximize the amount of money that they can save and therefore invest, they understand that if they're not blowing a bunch of money on transportation and they're not having to spend a bunch of time commuting to and from their jobs, they can take that time and energy and resource and put it towards actually making money. So granted, if you live in a city, yeah, you'll pay, you know, generally speaking, you'll pay more for your house. Your property taxes will also be higher. But then again, the return that you get is also going to be substantial in many cases. Now granted, your lot size will also be significantly smaller if you choose to live in town. And you'll have to abide by more code restrictions, obviously, which a lot of people who live in the country or in smaller communities, that's the reason why they chose to leave the city, because they don't want to abide by all that. But that's a whole nother conversation. See, a lot of these people that are moving a lot of these people that are moving to the city or moving back to the city, they're they're thinking about their money. That's what they're thinking about. They don't give a crap about code restrictions. They don't give a crap about having acres upon acres of land. They care more about having a practical setup to where they're living comfortable, but at the same time practical. And they can put their focus on their money. Now, some of these people that live in the city, they do own land out in the country. Some of these people, they got their everyday home in the city, and maybe on the weekends, whenever they're off of work, or maybe once or twice a month, whenever they feel like it, they might take their family and friends or whoever, and maybe they have a cabin waiting. Maybe they have a cabin somewhere that might sit on some acres of land out in the country. So they do that for a handful of days per month or whatever the case might be. But then every other day, they got their home in the city that's close to everything they need. That way they're not blowing a bunch of money on new cars and maintenance and wear and tear on the vehicle. They're not having to spend a bunch of time and energy commuting to and from work. Alright people, that's all I got for this one. Hopefully you guys got something out of the video. And I'm going to take this opportunity to thank everybody for tuning in and watching my videos and subscribing to my channel and leaving comments below. Stay blessed.